We all know the exact feeling. You know, that heavy, sinking exhaustion. The lingering guilt when you promise yourself, okay, this time I'm finally going to change, only to fall right back into the exact same routines just a few days later. You set the early alarm, you buy the fancy running shoes, you download the budgeting app, and yet the discipline just fades. Well, in this explainer, we're going to dive deep into the psychological mechanics of why we repeatedly break good habits, and more importantly, how we can finally make them stick by working with the science of human behavior rather than fighting against it. So let's just jump right in. To really understand our own minds, we have to start with a real-world mystery, and it's a profound one. If people know for a fact that a habit will literally save their lives, why don't they do it? Back in the late 1990s, in the squatter settlements of Karachi, Pakistan, residents were living in incredibly tough, unsanitary conditions. Contaminated water was causing rampant epidemics of diarrhea, pneumonia, and other serious infections. Now, the residents actually knew that hand washing was absolutely vital. They understood the facts perfectly. And yet, despite this literal life-or-death knowledge, they just failed to do it consistently. They'd wash haphazardly, use no soap, or honestly, just forget entirely. Because, as it turns out, knowledge alone is rarely enough to change our behavior. Enter a public health worker named Stephen Luby. When he arrived in Karachi in the late 90s, he quickly realized he had to approach this not as an education problem, but as a habit adoption problem. So he partnered with Procter & Gamble to introduce a very specific intervention into these neighborhoods. And the results? They were staggering. Within just a few months, they were rapid, neighborhood-wide health improvements. But here's the truly miraculous part. 6 years later, researchers returned and found that over 95% of the households had maintained the hand-washing habit. And that's even though they hadn't been given the intervention for over 5 years.
So you're probably wondering, what was this secret intervention? Well, it wasn't some terrifying guilt-inducing lecture on germs. It was literally just a better bar of soap. The standard bar soap they were used to was purely functional. It was based on knowledge, it was boring, and it was easily forgotten. Luby introduced Safeguard soap instead. Safeguard was a premium sensory experience. It smelled amazing, with this pleasant minty scent, and it foamed up really easily, giving people a rich, thick lather. Instantly, the simple act of washing hands sent a massive, positive sensory signal right to the brain. The sheer scale of what happened next was unprecedented. By simply making the soap actively enjoyable to use, the rate of diarrhea plummeted by 52%. Pneumonia dropped by 48%. Impetigo, which is a bacterial skin infection, fell by 35%. I mean, think about that. This wasn't achieved by scaring people into changing. It was achieved by making the act of changing feel undeniably good in the present moment. And this brings us to a profound realization, which is really the psychological anchor of our entire explainer today. In the world of habit formation, this is known as the fourth law of behavior change: make it satisfying. Feelings of pleasure, even minor ones like smelling a minty soap or feeling a really nice lather, are direct biological signals. They literally tell the human brain, hey, this feels good. Let's make sure we do this again next time. Pleasure, essentially, is the ultimate teacher for your brain. Which leads us to the cardinal rule of behavior change. What is immediately rewarded is repeated. What is immediately punished is avoided. The absolute most crucial word here is immediately. We are hardwired to repeat actions that give us a quick hit of satisfaction, and we instinctively abandon actions that offer no immediate sensory payoff or cause friction. It's not a character flaw, it is a fundamental law of human nature. And this concept isn't just about soap. Take a look at the history of chewing gum. Gum actually existed way back in the 1800s, but it was made of these bland resins. It was chewy, sure, but completely tasteless. It wasn't until Wrigley added intense flavors like spearmint and juicy fruit that it became a massive worldwide habit. That flavor gave a quick, satisfying, clean mouthfeel. Toothpaste followed the exact same trajectory. Manufacturers started adding spearmint, peppermint, and cinnamon. Now, those flavors don't actually improve how well the toothpaste cleans your teeth at all, but they provide that immediate, refreshing reinforcement that makes you crave brushing your teeth again. Part 1. The evolutionary mismatch: hardware versus society. Listen, if you've ever felt a deep sense of guilt over breaking a habit, I want you to prepare to let that burden go right now, because the reason you struggle isn't a lack of moral character. It's an ancient evolutionary mismatch. Let's compare the two worlds we exist in. Our ancestors lived out on the African savanna in what's called an immediate return environment. Their decisions had instant impacts. Avoid that predator right now. Find shelter from the storm today. Eat this meal immediately. The distant future just didn't matter. But today, we live in a delayed return environment. You work today, but you don't get a paycheck for 2 weeks. You save money today for a retirement that's decades away. You exercise today so you aren't out of shape next year.
And here is the defining number: 200,000. The neocortex, which is the newest part of our brain responsible for higher functions, is roughly the exact same size today as it was 200,000 years ago. Human society has only shifted to a delayed return environment in the last 500 years or so, so you are navigating a brand new, incredibly complex modern world using outdated Paleolithic hardware that evolved entirely to seek out immediate payoffs. Behavioral economists actually have a specific term for this phenomenon: time inconsistency. Basically, this means your brain evaluates rewards completely inconsistently across time. We heavily bias our valuations toward the present moment. A reward that is certain right now is biologically worth so much more to your brain than a reward that is merely possible in the distant future.
Part 2. Present you versus future you. The core conflict.
And this brings us to the tragic, emotional core of our daily struggle, the massive misalignment between the person we desperately want to be and the decisions we actually make in the moment. Think about the cruel irony of bad habits. The immediate outcome feels amazing, right? Eating junk food tastes great right now. Scrolling social media or smoking eases your stress right now. But the ultimate outcome feels terrible down the road: disease, fatigue, poor mental health. Now look at good habits. The immediate outcome is often pretty unenjoyable. Going to the gym means sweating, physical exertion, and muscle ache today. But the ultimate outcome is feeling fantastic. The consequences of bad habits are delayed, but the rewards are immediate. For good habits, the exact opposite is true. The 19th century French economist Frédéric Bastiat captured this lifelong struggle just perfectly. He wrote, "It almost always happens that when the immediate consequence is favorable, the later consequences are disastrous, and vice versa. Often, the sweeter the first fruit of a habit, the more bitter are its later fruits. The costs of your good habits are paid in the present. The costs of your bad habits are paid in the future." So the crucial takeaway here is this: when you sit down and make a plan to lose weight, write a book, save money, you are making plans for future you. You're dreaming up this ideal, optimized self. But when the actual moment of decision arrives, future you isn't making the choice. Present you is in charge. And present you, guided by that 200,000-year-old brain we talked about, wants to be full, pampered, and entertained immediately. Instant gratification usually wins. Part 3. Mastering instant gratification. Hacking the system. But here's the good news. We don't have to be victims to our biology forever. Let's look at how we can actually hack this Paleolithic reward system. We need to learn how to inject a little bit of immediate pleasure into the habits that pay off in the long run. Let's tackle one of the hardest things first. How do we reward a habit of avoidance? Behaviors you actively want to stop doing, like no alcohol this month or no frivolous online shopping. It's incredibly challenging because when you skip buying a pair of shoes, nothing happens. There's no action. You're just resisting temptation, and there is absolutely nothing satisfying about that in the moment. The brilliant solution here is to make avoidance visible, using a strategy called the leather jacket method. Step 1. You pass on a daily purchase, like skipping your overpriced morning latte. Step 2. You immediately transfer that exact amount, let's say $5, into a specific, separate savings account labeled leather jacket or trip to Europe or whatever you really want. Step 3. You immediately see your progress. You are essentially creating a personalized loyalty program for yourself. The immediate reward of seeing yourself save money towards something you deeply want feels infinitely better than simply feeling deprived. However, there is a very important rule, and honestly, a really common trap when hacking your reward system with these artificial short-term rewards. The rewards you choose absolutely must align with your ultimate identity. If your immediate reward directly contradicts the kind of person you are trying to become, the whole system just falls apart. For example, if your reward for going to the gym and crushing a workout is coming home and eating a massive bowl of ice cream, you are casting votes for conflicting identities. It ends up being a total wash. You're just fighting yourself. Instead, you need an aligned reward. Maybe your reward for working out is taking a long, luxurious bubble bath, or getting a massage, or just going for a really peaceful walk listening to your favorite music. These are still immediate, fantastic rewards, but they cast a vote toward taking care of your body. They reinforce your long-term vision of being a healthy person.
Now, you might be wondering, do I have to constantly bribe myself like this forever? The answer is no, thankfully. You really only need these artificial, immediate rewards early on when the good habit feels like all sacrifice and zero payoff, because eventually the intrinsic rewards take over. Your mood naturally gets better, you have way more energy throughout the day, you experience reduced stress, and at that point, the identity itself becomes the reinforcer. You exercise because it's simply who you are now, and it just feels good to be you. Incentives start a habit, but identity sustains it.
To sum this all up, our brains naturally prioritize the present over the future. It's just how we're built. To get a habit to truly stick, you need to feel immediately successful, even in a very small, seemingly trivial way. The first 3 laws of behavior change make a behavior happen this time, but this 4th law, make it satisfying, is what increases the odds that the behavior will be repeated next time. It's the final puzzle piece. It completes the habit loop. I want to end on this final transformative thought. Change is easy when it is enjoyable. It's time to stop fighting your human nature and start working with it. Thanks for joining me on this explainer today. I want to leave you with one final question to think about. Consider the absolute hardest habit you are trying to build in your life right now. How can you make it undeniably, immediately enjoyable today?